Hello everyone, my name is Meg and welcome to my channel. So I have been an avid reader for as long as I can remember. However, over the last year or two, my reading has significantly dropped off. Typically, I have read anywhere from 30 to 50 books a year. This year, I am just finishing up my third book. So it's not been great. But my hope is that in 2025, I can turn that around and get back to reading because it really is something that helps when I'm stressed out. It helps fuel my creativity, and I just really enjoy reading other people's stories. So to help me do that this year, I've decided to do a reading journal, and I thought we would do a flip through of that today, and I'll show you what spreads I have set up already. And then if you guys have any suggestions on other spreads, books to check out, I am all ears. So let's get started. This is my notebook that I will be using. It's just one of Michael's, I think it's the Reflections brand journal. It's just a regular lined notebook that I'm going to have packed full with all my reading goodness this year. So when you open it up, this is my rating log or rating reference, I guess you would say. I still don't know where to put this in the reading journal, so it's just kind of hanging out here in the front. But I decided to write down, the reasons why I would give something a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-star rating, really just as a reference to myself. I, for whatever reason, end up rating a lot of books as a 3, and they really don't deserve it. There are books when I've gone through my read list on Storygraph and I see that I've rated it a 3. I can't figure out why I did that. So I'm hoping this will help me this year with some consistency with rating and really get me to admit that I don't like a particular book. And on this other side is the way I'm keeping track of the books for various book clubs I belong to. Some of them are online, and then another is through my local library. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to read every book and participate in every book group meeting that comes up, but this is a way that I can keep track of when the book group is happening, what books they're reading, and then in this 5-star rating area, I'll just color in the stars once I either have the book via the library, if I've purchased it, or if I decided to buy the audiobook version of it. So that's just going to live there in the front pocket. And then we can get into the journal itself. So my first spread is my book shelfie. I love seeing other people's book shelfies in their reading journals. I think it is such a cool way to keep track of how many books you have read. So throughout the year, as I read a book, I'll just go ahead and color in each book spine. I don't think there's a lot of space, or at least there's not enough space for me to write in the book titles. I have pretty big handwriting. So I don't want to have those titles just kind of smooshed in there. So I'm just going to color the spines. I'm going to try to color them to match the book that I have read, so there's some representation of that. But otherwise, I'm just really excited to see how many of these books I can fill in. Next is my actual reading or books read list. So this, I will write out the name of the book, the author, and then give it its 1 to 5-star rating. This goes to 62. My goal for the year is to read 52 books. And I will explain that number a little bit later. Next up, we have how many pages I read per day. I am going to have to redo this section here. This is from a printable, which I will link down below. But I typically, when I sit down to read, I do read quite a bit. So it's a little unrealistic that I'm going to have days where I only read 5 to 10 pages or 11 to 20 pages. I usually at a minimum will sit down and read about 30 pages a session. So I'm going to adjust this and just put a little sticker over that. And then I'm also thinking of adding another section for minutes listened to when I listen to audiobooks. I had originally thought that I would just tie it in that one page would equal 1 minute to kind of keep it simple. But I think I really want to differentiate between actually sitting down and reading the book versus listening to the audiobook. The next page, I will keep track of how many books I read per month. So I have yet to figure out my color palette. These colors will go away. I put them in and immediately decided I didn't like that. So I need to redo my colors for the year. But once that happens, once I figure out that, then I will fill this in, and then we'll be able to keep track of how many books I have read each month. Next up is my did not finish list. I'm hoping I don't have too many books on here. I did just this fall purge a huge number of books from my bookshelf, either books that I've read and would never read again, books that I didn't finish, and then books that I just never finished and didn't have any interest in reading. So I really pared down what I do have. So this, I'm hoping, remains relatively empty throughout the year. And then next I have my 2025 books read. One of the other things that I super love seeing in other people's reading journals are when they have the printed book covers in their journals. I also am someone who really judges a book pretty hard by its cover. If it has a really great cover, I'm more apt to read it than if it has kind of a boring cover. So I'm really interested to see what this ends up looking like. But here I'll print out the book covers for each book that I read. I'll add the rating. And I am going to keep track of when I start a book and then end it, just to kind of see how long it's taking me to get through some books. And if, genre, type of book, that kind of thing, if that affects anything. And then I will also just down below mark if it was read on my Kindle, if it was an audiobook, or if it was a physical book. So in here, I do have enough of these pages to keep track of 52 books for the year. And then this printable was just something fun. It is a dice game. You roll 2 6-sided die, and then how those numbers match up will determine which book you would pick to read next. I don't know how often I'm going to use this game, but I thought it would be kind of nice to have something so that when I am struggling to pick a book, that I can just roll 2 die and then go with whatever prompt has been noted on this sheet of paper. So I think that'll be kind of fun to work on. After that, I do have my series overview trackers. Right now, I only have the series that Sarah J. Maas has done. So Throne of Glass, Crescent City, and A Court of Thorns and Roses. I tend to I either will read a series all in one chunk, or I will read a book, take a break, read a book, take a break. And so this is just to help me keep track of what I have read, what I haven't read. If there's new books that come out, I can add them on here. So I have it all ready when I'm ready to pick up the next book in the series. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do the summary or then my favorite or worst moments. I might just find some pictures that relate to the books and put those in there instead. So I have some blank ones for other series that I might come across. Here in my book recommendations page, as I come across books from other people on YouTube, Instagram, some of the Facebook groups I belong to for our readers, they will go here. My goal is to put them in this spread versus a giant list on my phone where it just gets lost in the shuffle, or to help keep my to-read list on Storygraph a little bit more manageable. So that really does reflect the books I want to read versus a book that I heard someone talk about and I want to check out later. Those books will go here, and then I can move them to my to-read list later. Next up is my Brilliant Books monthly tracker. Brilliant Books is my local independent bookstore, and I absolutely adore them. They have some of the best staff. Every time I have gone in and have asked for a book recommendation, I have never walked out without a book I did not love. So they offer this program. It's called Brilliant Books Monthly. You fill out this little information card about, they have a whole bunch of genres listed. You can add your own notes. At the end, there's anything else we need to know about your reading habits. And when you send that in, they will send you a book hand selected for you based on your preferences. So as a little bit of a Christmas present for myself, I did a year's subscription, and my first book should be coming in January. And so as those books come in, you will put their covers here, and then after I've read them, I will do their rating. So this is the thing I am most excited about. Not only is it monthly book mail, but it's individualized monthly book mail. And then so the reason I came up with 52 books as my goal for the year is because I am doing the 52 Book Club's 2025 Reading Challenge. So what this is the group put together a list of 52 prompts for books to read this year. So what I did is I took those prompts and I added them to my sheet. So again, I'm going to put their covers in as I read them as a fun representation of how I did the challenge. The reason these are numbered is they correspond to the list. I have a little bit of OCD, and so sometimes I just didn't want to break up a category. So that's why the numbers are a little bit funky, but that's also why they are numbered so I can keep track. So yeah, the goal is to read every book or read a book that matches every prompt for this challenge, and we will see how that goes. I did start sort of pre-planning that list based on books I already have, and then also books that I have had on my to-read list that match the prompts. So I already kind of have an idea of which books I will already be reading in the next year. And then next up, I have 2 additional trackers. One of the other things I'm doing this year is doing a low spend. I've got some trips I would like to take that I want to save for. And so in an attempt to do that, I've decided, really take advantage of my local library and borrow books either directly from, the library itself or through Libby and Hoopla. So when I do that, I'm going to write the name of the book and the author. And then in this column, I will write down how much that book would have cost had I purchased it. I thought this would just be a fun way to see where I can save some money. And then the same with borrowed books. This one would be, I have some bookish friends that we like to exchange books. And so if they give me a book to read that I borrow, I will list them here. I'm also thinking that maybe in this borrowed book section, because I'm such an avid reader and do get books as gifts, I may list those here as well. And then just their amount that I would have spent to have bought those books. So the last thing we have are my yearly stats. So here I'm gonna keep track of everything I've done through the year. And I think this is gonna be really fun and super interesting to see what it looks like at the end of December 2025. So here I will keep track of how many individual books I read, how many different authors I read, how many total pages, and that will be including ebooks and physical books, how many ebooks I read, how many audiobooks I listen to, and how many physical books I read. And then I've also decided, this column was originally titled total, but I've gone ahead and changed that to minutes. I want to see how many minutes I listen to audiobooks for the month. And then at the end of the year, I'll go ahead and total those up and get my final number. So I think that'll be a really interesting sort of statistic or stat to look at when I'm done. So that is my reading journal for 2025. I had a really fun time putting it together, and I think filling it out throughout the year is also going to be a really great time. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you guys have any book recommendations, I would love to hear them. I read just about anything. And also, if you've made a reading journal, I would love to see it as well. So I will link down below all of the products that I've used, all the printables that I used, as well as linking this notebook from Michaels. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.